Welcome everybody to another edition of King's Court with JJ. An all new episode dropping right now. We're going to be talking about sports, music, entertainment, you name it. A special guest or two may be popping in, so feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you enjoy. Hello, everybody. We got another show on King's Court with JJ, and boy, do we have a massive show today. I got some special people joining me. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you don't want to be spoiled, spoiler alert, we are going to be talking about My Mom Jane, just like the title says. Hello. Biggest documentary out there right now. If you're a Law and Order fan, you probably are going to love to hear this. I'm a true Law and Order fan, SVU. Over so many years, that show's been on the air over 20 plus years. I think they're on like season 26 or something. If you're a Mariska Hargitay fan, you're going to love this because obviously it's all about her. And you're going to learn a lot about her in this segment. And if you actually watched My Mom Jane. So joining me today are my good friends, Venicia and Cynthia, who I have the honor of having on the show with me today. We're going to add them here. Hello.
Hey, JJ.
Hey.
How are you?
We're good.
Nice. Hey, thanks for joining me today. Boy, oh boy, did we watch a show or what?
Yeah.
It was pretty freaking amazing. Like I said, I am a huge Law and Order fan. Have you guys seen Law and Order? SVU?
I have.
I've seen a couple. I'm not a I don't follow SVU, but
Okay.
But I was familiar with Mariska. So
Okay.
interesting to see her from a documentary, like directing this thing.
Yeah. And we're gonna get into that part, maybe towards the end. But as a person who watches Law and Order SVU to go into this, it was one hell of a thing. You look at Mariska Hargitay as Olivia Benson on Law and Order SVU, and you only think about that. And if you've watched as long as I have, Venicia, did you say you watched quite a few episodes?
I have watched her for years, but not where I follow like season 1, season 2. I just, where I pick up and then it's hard to change the channel because then the next episode comes on.
Exactly.
Just watching.
I want to say Law and Order started like way before 2000 because I was still in high school. That tells you a little bit how old I am. But we won't go there. But all these years you've seen, Mariska play Olivia Benson on Law and Order SVU, and then as the show progresses, you see the different roles she plays. She's a detective. She starts off as a detective, Captain Benson, and she has all these secret lives. She finds out her mom was raped and had her out of being raped, and you find out that she really doesn't know who her dad is until later on in the show.
Oh wow.
And then you find out she has a half brother named Nelson. And it's different little things like that now when you watch this show, it makes you think of her like, wow, like did her character follow this a little bit beyond the show, like, or how did this all come together? And that's where I'm kind of puzzled by, or I have questions on that. And it's weird how this is kind of coming full circle on her, and how close these names are, stuff like that. So I think it's a pretty cool thing, and we'll get into that. But let's just jump into it. Jane Mansfield, her mother. What did you know about her? Did you even know about her mother? Did you ever hear anything about Jane Mansfield before this?
I didn't. I did recognize the picture where she's getting the side eye. That's the only picture that I knew. And I went in just thinking about the two different characters. Again, I didn't know anything about Jane Mansfield. And so I was just thinking that going into the documentary that it was about the two different types of actresses. Because when you see Law and Order, she's a boss, she's a boss babe. And she's smart. When she makes mistakes, she takes ownership of those mistakes. And so just a different type of character. And so that's what I was going in. And so in just seeing this is the direction she went in her career because of the previews of, the trailer for My Mom Jane.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
Yeah. Well, as far as Jane Mansfield, I did know, that she was super famous actress and, had kind of taken on a role similar to Marilyn Monroe and those kinds of things. I don't know if it's too soon to talk about this, so I'm not going to get totally into it, but I also was very aware of how she died. And as a result, some changes that that came out of that, in terms of certain regulations and things that were passed as a result of her, the way that she passed away. So.
Yeah, and we'll get into her death too, but you guys touch base on it. I never knew of a Jane Mansfield, and when I first saw it, I was like, man, that looks like Marilyn Monroe to me, like that kind of style. I was kind of like, oh, she's a pinup person, because that's to me who Marilyn Monroe is, somebody who's like a pinup. I never knew she was an actress. I never knew anything like that. You always think of Marilyn Monroe, and I think of the Dear Mr. President song for John F. Kennedy. That's the only thing I know of. I don't know about you guys if you have a different perspective on that, but that's really the only thing I know. She, Marilyn Monroe died of a drug overdose or something, right?
Yeah. Now I have watched a few documentaries on Marilyn Monroe as well, and I think after watching this documentary, feel like I have a much better sense of who Jane Mansfield is, beyond just the limited view that Hollywood was providing for us. Mm-hmm. But even with that, there are similarities kind of in the tragedy and the struggle I think they both went through, and being boxed in as overly sexualized, right? And being in that box for so long.
Absolutely.
Or to that box, basically, because of the time that they were living and the way they looked. So maybe more like forced into that box due to the times that they were coming up.
Uh-huh. And it's weird because nowadays there's so many actresses, J-Lo's movies, or you look at Zendaya and all these people that have all these big time movies, Jane Fonda, if we go back, everybody else is completely different. They never had to play this bimbo or a two different personality person, and it seemed like they made these two people, Marilyn Monroe and her, Jane Mansfield, play these two completely different people that they truly weren't made.
Well, I think that maybe has come with the change of times, though. I mean, if we go back to late 70s, 80s, and the 90s, we still had women being portrayed in certain in certain spaces. Jane Fonda, some of her more serious roles came later on in life as she was older, but what roles really did she have when she was younger? So I think that's more of, as we've as a society we've become aware.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and I'll also say with that, I think one of the things that I appreciate now, I mean, even with some of the people, JJ, that you mentioned, we can hold more than one idea of a person at the same time. And so I feel like in the time of Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield, they kind of created caricatures of women, right? That women were only this, which was, a very cinched in waist, a lot of curves, and that was and a cute little giggle, a whisper kind of voice, and that was it, right? Where now I think we're honoring what it means to be whole, right? It's not there. We still could. I mean, I'm sure I know that there's still some rough edges there for sure, but it definitely feels like we're honoring what it means to be a woman or feminine or all of those aspects with more complexity, which is, I think part of what caused all the chaos back then in terms of identity crisis.
And I mean, if you think about what roles, even in the real world, like what job roles did women hold in society? And at that time, it was like mostly entry level secretarial jobs in the workforce. And so we didn't get opportunities like we do now. And so at that time, listening to, or after watching this documentary, just the character that they're in character when they walk out the door, like even their voice changing.
Yeah, because some of the homemade videos, she didn't speak like that at home.
That was wild. Yeah, that was wild to hear. And I think they show it in the documentary, right? There's a moment where you actually hear something closer to her true voice for just a couple of scenes there. And I was blown away at how she could keep that other persona and the voice that came with it, for hours and days on end, like
the ventriloquist.
I know it was kind of incredible to actually hear it.
That's exactly what I thought I was listening to.
I mean, even Mariska imitated the voice.
Yeah, to a T. And I think the documentary dropped on Friday, and she was on. Mariska was on the show on The View, talking about it. Never said anything like we're going to talk about, but I mean, she even said how her mom made them answer the phone like real polite and this and that and that. And I was just like, okay, who is this? And then you watch the show and you're like, your mom made you answer the phone like that, but she talked like this. And then all of a sudden they start showing different video footage and you're like, wow, your mom didn't talk like that. Your mom was educated, polite, and it just always made it seem like she was a dumb blonde. And how many times was that repeated in this documentary, which is so sad.
Well, and it reminds me of that clip. There's a clip in there where she's actually, when they start talking about she knew like 5 languages.
Yeah.
She played the piano and the violin. She was classically trained. There's this whole other aspect of her that they didn't shine a light on. And when she's trying to come to terms with that or trying to be more public and assertive about that side, that one little clip that they showed the interview, and the interviewer is like, well, who cares about that? Just give me a kiss. Or I don't know what he told her, but he smiles, everybody laughs, but I just can only imagine how that must have landed with her, kind of on a spiritual, emotional, space.
Or even the interview where she gets interviewed by another female and they talk about like her talent or lack of talent and just how eloquent she responded. To the individual. I mean, she didn't skip a beat. She just responded and stood her ground. And it's basically, it was a character that they wanted that Hollywood wanted at that time.
They put her in that box completely. And it's unfortunate. Obviously Mariska lost her mother when she was 3 years old. Jane had a total of what, 4 kids,
Mhm.
actually 5. I'm sorry, 5 kids. Of course, Jane Marie Mansfield, Mickey Hargitay Jr., Zoltan Hargitay Jr., or Zoltan Hargitay, Mariska, and then she had another son from another marriage. So Mariska grew up with these 4 other siblings, and I'm going to say grew up with only 4. We all know that changes later, but losing a parent so young. I mean, I'm fortunate to have my mom, but I don't really talk to my dad or anything. Does that kind of affect you? I don't know you guys' background, but I know it affects me. Like it has a lot of different feelings and stuff, especially how that kind of ended with my mom and dad. But having different parents, Jane Mansfield, her first daughter, coming from her first marriage, and then you have 2 other brothers, and then it's you, and then you find out later, you're obviously have another little brother. Do you think it's kind of weird, when you've lost a parent at such a young age, and then your parents remarry, and how does that kind of play into it? How do you think that made her feel?
So I'll let you ponder on that for a moment.
Well, I mean, she talks in the documentary about this sense of loss, right? And she's where she's going through, like the little photo album of when she was a baby, her baby book, and essentially the pages are incomplete, and how that just added to this sense of loss that she had, right? Yeah. So it sounds like her stepmom though was a really lovely person, and really showed her love and care and all of those things. But she's fortunate in that for sure. But I would still imagine there's a void there that look at how long it took for her to get to a place. And I know there were other things kind of involved in all that, but a place to come back and really explore all of that and the pain that came with it. So,
I mean, they talked about how they haven't opened those boxes since her mother passed away. But I think, there's she's, going into the documentary and really accepting her mother for who she was. There's a lot of parallels with her mother. For example, they both so her mother lost her father in a car accident, and she was in the car when she was 3.
Right.
And then now she lost her mother when she was in a car accident, and she was also 3 years old. But I think she lost more than her mother, because I was trying to, you kind of start listening into different pieces, and then you look at the pictures after the accident, and you see where you no longer see her older sister in the photos as she's growing up with her father.
Yeah, because she went to go live with her real dad,
with the real family, and then you see, and then you don't see the younger brother in any of the pictures. And then there's a lot of missing pieces where the photographs are cut out as well. So like there's an absence throughout her life.
Yeah. So can you imagine though, like if you're in a car accident, and I mean, if her second oldest brother, younger brother, actually, or her younger brother, if he wouldn't have woken up, her second oldest brother, if he wouldn't have woken up and said, "Hey, where's my sister?" they would have never found her. They would have never found Mariska. Who?
Oh, yes.
they would have never known she was in the car until he said something, and they circled back around to go look at the car. And then they realized, wow, she was under the seat this whole time. It that was scary. That was weird for me.
Well, in that moment when they're talking about that, and Mariska gets up to hug her brother, right? Oh my gosh, tears.
Yeah.
Thank God that he woke up. And was able to let somebody know.
Where's Maria?
Otherwise, she might not have survived it either.
It was funny because I kind of Dick Wolf, the most famous producer who produces a lot of the NBC shows. I just, as you watch other documentaries and you see where like Mariska's on these a Dick Wolf segment show, it's kind of weird how like some of that is in Dick Wolf's other shows. Like he maybe knew that because there's a scene in Chicago Fire where a kid stuck underneath the car, in the car. They had an accident. Nobody ever knew he was under there until they just pull the car out randomly and they're getting ready to like smash the car, and then they find the kid. Can you imagine if that, those little things like that, you're like, oh my God, like that's what took me back. As you watch Law and Order, some of the things that kind of still go with Olivia Benson, Nelson having Nelson, we'll get to that. And like I said, some of these characters are Mickey or, and it's like, wow, like they put all that into Law and Order SVU. Did they really know, or did she have some kind of say on it?
Well, you mentioned some of the law or regulations that came from that accident.
Yeah, but the thing that I was actually going to mention was, that book got published, The Secret Tragic Life of Jane Mansfield.
The tragic secret life of Jane Mansfield.
And like I looked up to see when it was originally published, and I think it was published in like 1974 originally. So the information was out there for public consumption. And now I remember she had said early on that her dad, Mickey, had told her, don't read like any of that stuff because, it's just, it's garbage. It's not true. It's just stay away from it. And she did. I wonder, because she's such a public figure, and her mom was such a public figure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how many people read the book, right? How many people around her, in some form or fashion, even just the general public.
Or the writers.
Right. Or the writers, whatever.
Let's talk about who the writer is. That's where it gets kind of crazy for me, too. The writer is Raymond Rusty Straight, who used to be the mother's press secretary.
Right.
Now, if we're in our time right now, everybody's signing a disclosure. You can't discuss, can't do this, can't do that. Obviously, I bet you anything for women that was never even thought of. That was probably blown out of the way. Because for this guy to publish something like that right after she died, I would love to get my hands on the full copy. Because, Mariska has it. And come to find out, in the documentary, she goes through it. She finds out a lot more about herself because of that book, and then traces it back to Rusty. Like, hey, you were my mom's press secretary, and you wrote this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how crazy is that? Because nowadays, if you sign a disclosure, you're not going to be doing that. But, man, obviously they didn't care about women, and he was able to write whatever he wrote, or they didn't have those kind of laws, and he got away with it.
Well, I think she was exploited by the people that were closest to her.
Mm-hmm.
Those that were supposed to be working with her.
Are you talking about Jane Mansfield?
Mm-hmm. Like the men that,
were supposed to be protecting her.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously,
including her, I guess, Rusty, who is supposed to be loyal to her.
Mm-hmm.
But, and he has access to her. access to, to the family, to the intimate part of her life where she brings, takes off the mask and is actually real.
Mm-hmm. And the person she died with, which is Sam Brody, was one of Jayne Mansfield's love interest. He was an attorney. Like, he was her personal divorce attorney. And I mean, he kind of allowed some of this as well. He never really put a stop to it. I don't know they used it as part of, something they could gain from. I mean, I don't understand it. I guess back in the day it was different, modern time.
Like, he didn't put a stop to what?
To their publications of different things about her mom.
Did he die in the? I think
He's
died.
The one that died in the accident.
Yes.
So I think the book came out after
he died.
Yeah.
She questions him like that. How it like putting out, that wasn't his story to tell to begin with. Mm-hmm. And then he didn't think about how it was going to affect her family.
I find that really hard to believe that it didn't cross his mind.
Yeah. I do too.
And when he shows up and he's already branding certain,
right.
Yes. And so it's like, how did you not? I mean, it was all about making money off of her story, her secret, their story. I go back to, he was her press secretary, right? So there's some aspect of that where he's protecting her image, right, while she's alive and all of those things. And so it's understood.
That's his job, right? So how did it not cross his mind that what he was putting out there, one, was not his to tell, and two, it never crossed his mind what kind of ripple effect it would have had in the family, right? I don't know if it had to do with
how it would affect the kids.
Yeah,
the adults can handle
the truth,
right? So but the kids, how it would affect the kids, the children.
So
our memory.
I'm really torn about this though, because I'm so one of the things is, I mean, I know that she found out how this all came about, right? She found out from a fan yes. Of hers.
Tavian.
But the reason he knew was because of the book, right? So all this, her reconnection to her biological father, all of that came about because there was, this public record of it. And so in some ways, that I feel like that kind of really provided her with a true understanding of who her family is biologically, just the history. I think that we all have a right to know. And so I'm really torn because while on one hand, I feel like it was a violation and a betrayal and not a story to tell. On the other hand, she has a right to know, her history. And certainly, that could have come out in different ways and not necessarily in a book, right? And I haven't read it, so I don't know how salacious it is or how exploitative it is. But I mean, it's enough that he clearly shared some things that the family themselves were not ready to share.
I know throughout her years, there were things that where she was excluded from family vacations to Europe. And so she was sent to her maternal grandmother's home, as a 12-year-old, when her grandmother tells her, "You're all I
have."
Oh no, I'm all you have.
I'm all you have. Yeah.
It sort of just starts, she planted seeds. There are seeds planted there along the way. But so there are questions perhaps when she's growing up, because here you are with your, living life with your brothers. And then the family is planning a vacation to Europe, but you're excluded.
So let's go through that.
Or even from the start, her name.
Yeah.
She starts life as Maria, and then she's Mariska.
Mm-hmm.
And
So we're gonna go into that right now. So Jane Marie Mansfield is her oldest sister, and then her dad, which is Mariska Hargitay's dad, Mariska Hargitay, sorry, is Mickey Hargitay is her dad as of XYZ date. And then she has a brother, Mickey Hargitay Jr., Zoltan Hargitay, and then it's Mariska Hargitay. And Mariska came back as her name, if you notice, when the mom kind of went back to Hargitay, Mickey Hargitay, because they kind of got that divorce. Remember, they were kind of separated for a while. They went their ways. She went to Vegas. He stayed in, I think, Greece or somewhere. And they were
Europe. She went because they came back from Europe, and then they made their announcement.
Yeah, and the mother was pregnant with Mariska at that time, and that's when you started hearing Mariska. But then they separated again, and then it was, Sam Brody, and then it was like kind of like, this is Maria, because I think, somewhere along the way, she started dating different people, and her name changed to Maria, not Mariska anymore. So it was kind of weird. Like, you would think maybe somebody in there had an affair. She had an affair with somebody. There was obviously was Sam Brody that she was gonna marry, but she was dating. I don't think she really married him. And then there was another man too, that Matt Kimber, I think, or that she was married to. That was her third husband. So she's had these affairs and multiple marriages, but then there's still that weird vibe, like as you're watching, like you said, this all comes about because Mariska visits a old family storage locker and just starts cracking it open and starts going through these different things and childhood pictures. And I mean, her press secretary saved every clipping of her mother. And there's tons and tons of photos that Mariska's Hargitay's dad actually saved. And it makes you think, like, okay, well, who's the guy that, because I was concerned. Like, I really, from the beginning, like, as you started to see some of those pictures, I wanted to know who was cut out. Was it the Sam Brody guy? Was it the Matt guy? Makes you start to wonder. Did you guys have that feel? Or
can we talk about the cutting of pictures? Because we grew up during a time I remember as a teenager, we had like actual pictures.
Yeah.
And then when we got mad at our friends or our whoever we were like dating, and then we had their picture, we would physically cut them out. Okay.
Just that's like what we those would pictures. Do.
I mean, now we would crop them on the cell phone. Like, we would go in there and crop people out. But back then we didn't, our cropping was with a pair of scissors. So for me, just thinking about seeing the first picture that she cut out was her first husband.
I see. Oh, I now want to go back and rewatch it because I thought it was Mickey.
No, but the first picture, because it's her and her daughter, she cut out Paul Mansfield. Mm-hmm. And then as you continue, because as you continue, Mariska's going through, these photographs, and she starts pulling out photograph after photograph after photograph. She is cutting people, the pictures, people are cut out, and it's a male figure that was in the picture. But then as you're, when her daughter, her oldest daughter, talks about when they moved to California, she mentions she meant like she is either 5 or 6 years old, or maybe this is when she's already in New York. And she says, well, she's 22. So you start doing the math in your head. So she had her daughter, and then later on it mentions she had her daughter at 16. So she was married young. She was a teenage mom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if you think about, like, she stayed in that time, like that, I guess her mindset stayed. She was never given the opportunity to really grow, because then it was the men in the entertainment that really controlled her. So she never learned. She never had the opportunity to become a woman that everyone else gets.
Mm-hmm.
The coming of age, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
And so as she continues in her life, she continues to cut pictures. She continues to cut the men out of those pictures when that relationship ends.
I don't know that she did that to all of them, right? It seemed like there was like a file. No. There was like a file.
It's only the small pack of pictures. So that's where I was a little confused. Did she cut out, Sam Brody?
No, it seemed that the pictures that
she cut out Matt.
That she kept.
Yeah, not the ones that were in the...
Yeah.
Not the ones that other people had in their possession. Okay. It was pictures that she had in the storage where they're going through the files. It's picture after picture after picture. There's a part missing because she's like, what's going on here?
So we talk about Sabian Gray, who Mariska Hargitay met at 21 years old. She met this guy. He was the fan club president of James Mansfield. And it's kind of funny because you're like, dude, you're 21. She met you when she was 15. This guy looked like really, really young. Like, how much did he know about Jane Mansfield? Like, so you want to know more about him. Like, how did he come about all this? Because he looked like he was Mariska's age. So how did he know? But then you think back to the book that was written by the press secretary guy, and think back to maybe he was a true fan and dug into other media sources, whatever magazines were available back then or whatever, and started to really do his own research. And then at 25, this is when this kind of just takes a turn. They meet up again, and he drops a bomb on her and asks her, so, do you really want to know more about Nelson? Or, and then, that was a killer right there, Nelson. When you heard that, what went through your mind? The name Nelson. Like, did you think it was an affair? Did you think, how did you feel about that? Because all of a sudden we're introduced to a new character.
I didn't know who the individual was, but it started to highlight certain things, like the grandmother telling her, I'm all you have. And then the fact that her family did not include her in some family vacations. So I started to think about those things. I started to think about, how she is just sort of trying to grapple with the idea that this fan, this individual who, we have all kinds of folks out there who, maybe he was a fan because she was a pinup. Or he, there's fans that follow Marilyn Monroe, but this fan was able to have access to this information. So, she talks about how at night she would cry herself to sleep because now she's having to think about the betrayal within her own family. Because if this fan had all this information or knew all this about her, and then you think about the age of her sister. So if her mom died when she was 3, her sister would have been about 16 years old. Her brother, her siblings, her brothers, they would have had knowledge of this individual.
And they're in those pictures, some.
Well, no, that's later on. We're not there yet.
Well, yeah.
But, so like at this time, she's like, she has a name. Doesn't have the whole story. But
she says it happens pretty quickly, right? Like he mentions Nelson. She says, "Who's Nelson?" And then I felt so bad for him because she said he just went like
a ghost.
He turned into a ghost. Just his whole demeanor changed. And he, started immediately saying, well, maybe it's not true. And he was able to show her a picture, right, of Nelson with her mom. And she immediately said, I felt like I was looking at a picture of myself, right? Yeah. So I don't know that. Yeah. It happened so fast that I didn't really have time. Like when they mentioned Nelson, she's like, Nelson who? And then, the photo appears, or they mentioned the photo. And then, yes, immediately I went back to grandma saying.
So can you imagine, growing up as a kid thinking, okay, this person's your mom, this person's your dad. And then boom, finding out you're adopted or finding out that's not who your parents are. I mean, the utter shock that you have to live with that now. And she was already 25?
But there's a question of identity. Like, who am I?
Yeah.
Like really, who am I? And there's also the fact that the people that she trusts the most, the ones who are supposed to be, loyal to her protectors, had this information and did not share with her in a safe space.
So come to find out, obviously we're getting there. She had an affair with Nelson Sardelli. And he, he's actually Mariska Hargitay's real dad. And wow, I mean, finding out 20-something years later who your real dad is, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, it's already over and done with. There's no real questions you can ask. And then it makes you wonder, like, why did they wait so long? And then to hear how they met and the things he did, that's what got me. Like, he truly did care for her, but he was so pushed away. And then it makes you think, like, how could you be so stupid, like, to do that to your daughter? Knowing who she is, knowing, how she's growing up. But then you hear his side of the story and how he tells that. And out of respect for the other kids. And that's what, Mariska's dad, Mickey Hargitay, asked for. To respect the rest of the siblings.
Well, I don't think it was so much like her. I don't think he was worried so much about the siblings or Mickey. I think it was about protecting his own daughter. She had just lost her mother. She only knew, he knows that the older sister is no longer there. And this is the only family she knows. And then to come and disrupt that life, disrupt everything she has known all these years, I think it was done out of love.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like when you find out, because, you see all the pictures, because there's a lot of visuals, there's a lot of pictures. And something that I loved about Jayne Mansfield, and like you could feel it when the pictures, like there's a difference among the pictures, even with the oldest daughter and then with her sons, like, because she's the one in the picture, so someone else is taking the picture. So it's most likely Mickey, her husband, who's taking the picture when she's with her sons or like with the family. See how she looks at her children, how even when she's putting one to bed or in the bathtub, but the way she looks at her children, like you could see the love. But those pictures do not exist with Mariska.
Well, some of them do, because
the same level.
You're right.
The picture that she has with her children.
But I also think that comes with a timeline of when she passed.
But even when she's a baby, like,
Well, and we don't know in editing, like how much they chose to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know that we can say for sure what photos are out there because of how that was edited, right? But
I'm on that note, and I didn't mean to cut you off, so sorry. But on that note, if you go back to the interview of Thursday when she was on The View, Sarah Haynes like talks about that. Like, wow, the way your mother looked at you guys as kids in those photos, I can only hope my kids look at me or I look at my kids like that. And that is what Mariska, like at the moment on The View, shares, that meant the world to her, that she still felt like she looked at Mariska like that in those photos. So obviously there was maybe a few that were taken with Mariska and she still gave her that look, and wow, I mean, it's just so sad that, the way the point of view of those pictures are described in two different ways, or people take them two different ways, view them in two different ways. I think. I don't know. Do you guys feel different about those photos now that we know who the dad is and how they see that?
Yeah, I don't know. One of the things, I mean,
for me, that was something that just kind of popped in my mind at that moment. Because for me, I'm very visual. And so I could see, well, yes, she passed away when she was 3 years old. So yes, you're going to have an absence of pictures, but that was one of like, that just, came up as when I discovered that, who her biological father it is.
Yeah. I think the thing that I was going to say about the photos and everything and even the recording of her mom just talking about how her children are the most important thing to her, and she wants to provide this beautiful life for them. And she genuinely seems happy in all of those pictures. I don't think I picked, you are very visual. So, but I didn't pick up on like how many pictures we were seeing of who. So I probably need to go back and rewatch that part. But the joy that she felt, the love that she had for them. And this extends to everybody. I feel like, I'm sure people who watch the documentary, it would be really easy to judge Nelson or Mickey for choices that they made about not telling Mariska sooner or being upfront or whatever. But what I saw in all of that was love. Love and protection. Now, were there some aspects that may have been a little more self-serving? I mean, we're human, right? But again, I think we're complex people. But without a doubt, one of the elements that I saw in all of the documentary, across all the documentary, and within the complexities of the interrelationships and the secret keeping, what I did feel, though, a common thread running through all of that equally was love, right? And protection. mutual respect. You know, at the end, you know, the respect that Nelson had for Mickey taking care of Mariska in the way that he did, and vowing to protect him, right, and not make him look foolish in front of the public and whatever else, right? So, I know it really.
He was an
really
entertainer. Think about that. He was an entertainer. Could he have capitalized?
They pretty much all were entertainers.
Right, but could he have capitalized on on Jane Mansfield, her mother, on Mariska, because she had already,
become a
star? Could he have capitalized on, having this secret and just coming out with it? But he didn't.
Well, I don't know, because there's a moment in the documentary where he says that somebody had asked him, an interviewer had asked him about Mariska, and he said, please don't talk about my relationship. Come see the show, and if I do an awesome job, write about that. But please don't write about the relationship. I don't want to risk my career or something. Like, it was almost like he was putting them in
Nelson. Nelson said that. Yeah,
in the documentary.
But he's so protected.
But he was talking about also his career. There were, I believe, I'd have to go back and look again. But and that's not to say that he wasn't protecting them. But I think it was more than one thing. I don't think anything happens in a vacuum, is I guess what I'm saying. So yeah. I think he could be making the decision to protect them and himself at the same time, right?
Exactly. So, he was an entertainer in Vegas.
Yeah.
He was a handsome-looking guy. A handsome-looking Italian guy.
Hello.
Like,
have you seen some Italian? Let me just tell you. It's all true. It don't matter what they do for a living. It's all true. I'm like...
I'll take your word for it.
No, that's where I went for my 50th. Remember, I went to Italy by myself, and they're all, oh my God. I was like, in the moment I stepped off the plane, they're all, no matter. Yeah. And then I wonder, they look like that when they're young, and then when they age, it just, it's just different. But they're all like, oh my God, let me be rescued. Let me be rescued.
Food's so good, huh?
Was it like fainting?
Yes. Let me be rescued. Let me be lost.
As you drink that Italian wine. No, I'm just kidding. No. It's not wine?
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. It's funny though, because
so can we talk about the Italian? Nelson Sardelli.
Okay, let's do it.
So when those pictures come out.
Okay.
It's like a world.
A whirlwind?
Existed.
Yeah, another completely world. Mind you, Mariska Hargitay's dad, so to speak, stepfather, we'll say, or whatever we want to say.
It's her father.
He died in 2006.
Born in his heart. It's
2006. So
he always said that he was her father.
Yeah.
And so, but when you look at those pictures, you see a family. You see the siblings. You see them traveling through Europe, and she brings. It's not like she left her kids at home. She brings her kids.
Well, that was the thing. It wasn't secret at first when all this came out.
Yeah.
Right. Because I know we're going on this journey with Mariska, right? So we're with her at the beginning thinking this is some illicit affair and so forth.
Secret.
And then as it goes on, we come to find out this was a very public relationship. Separated from Mickey. Like,
they were divorced.
They were separated. And then Nelson went with her when she signed the divorce papers.
Yeah.
But they were living a very public romance, right? So that was also
they show them kissing, and there's other videos, and it's like, wow, like,
there are fans around them.
How did nobody ever see this and be like, hey, are you sure that's not your daughter? Like, That
But
that
social
always
media
questioned me.
wasn't part of that.
Huh?
The-
Like social media wasn't,
True.
you know what I mean? And so we didn't have social media. We didn't have People magazine.
it was definitely more controlled,
Yes.
a more controlled environment in
And
terms
then
of.
she passed away, and then there was no trace of it. But he had all those pictures, and they were not cut out. And I don't know, it was like a puzzle piece where then things just started to.
All into place.
Grandma knew.
Grandma knew.
Grandma knew.
Oh, but the fact that even grandma wanted to disrupt Mariska's life,
Mhm.
and her biological father took the high road.
Mm-hmm.
But even
Yeah.
her own grandmother wanted.
But for me, I don't know. I just think it's probably a different perspective. I think Grandma may have wanted to see Mariska with her biological father, like the love of I think that maybe
Give her that opportunity
I
to know
don't think there was like a malicious intent there or anything. I think
It's a word he used, and I can't think of it.
Mm.
No, he used a phrase. Because he used. I'd have to go back and watch it, but he used a phrase of like the intent that the grandmother was wanting. It was the phrase that he used that made me
appreciate.
Well, like the fact that he didn't listen to her, but it was a phrase and I can't think of it right now.
Well,
but
to
it sounded
me,
like
he
wanted
honored.
to make it much, like wanted to make it messy, as they say now.
Yeah, but it was cool that he was able to honor that, and so many years later, she finally met up with him, and we were introduced to two new sisters and his whole life, and we went on this journey with her to this whole new world, whole new family. And then if you look at the documentary at the beginning, her mind's just so, and we obviously know that she knows this process is changing and stuff, but man, like Mariska's identity is real cold, and then you get towards the end and it's like smiles and just a weight lifted off of her that she finally knows the truth about herself.
Well, and it's also, if you think, it's like she's peeling layers. She tells a story like there are layers that are being peeled away, and so it's throughout the story, and you're able to relate to the different. I don't want to say characters because they're not characters. These are real people. But so they're like, she peels away at the layers as she unfolds her story, and then the weight is lifted because she had carried this weight after meeting her father for 30 years.
Yeah, 30
and
years.
not just her, but like everyone had carried that with them.
There's a part in there where I guess they were at an event and Katie Couric even was like, how are you guys related? And she kept going back and forth because I want to find out she has two other sisters, Giovanna and Petra, right? And they were at an event and they had to be quiet. Like they never spoke about this relationship until now.
They called themselves family friends. Yeah.
Family friends. Can you imagine, like, if I had a sister and it was Mariska Hargitay, man, I would not be able to keep that a secret because I would be so damn proud of her. I mean, you can't gloat over the success of your family member. And that is something that I'm like, wow, like, you kept the secret all along. Like, how hard has it been for them?
Yeah. Well, and that brings
father and the sisters.
The thing that this makes me think about too is just for Mariska, right? This is just about, I think this comes down to, I mean, it's a lot of things, but one of them is acceptance, right? Coming to terms and accepting
your true identity.
your true identity, because it seemed like she was carrying a lot of shame around the persona that her mom had, right? And then I don't know if it was shame as much as it was trying to protect Mickey or whatever, right? But again, carrying all those secrets and things, by releasing them, I think part of her ability to be able to do that was really coming to terms with who she is as a whole person, and her family history, and just full acceptance of it all, right? Which, again, at the end, I was like a puddle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really heartwarming. It was a really heartwarming documentary for sure.
Just sort of, just shutting that part of her life, her mother, and and there are a lot of parallels between her and her mother, but just because she didn't want to be compared to her mother because they were both actresses, but they took two different roads and roles. But her mother, she learned that it was a character that she was living, but those were the only opportunities that she had because of how she looked. But then we get to see a different Jayne Mansfield she had practically a zoo at her house.
I know.
And she could play the
fun.
piano, and she could play the violin, and not just play, she could probably have her own concert.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. She was that good.
And the fact that she could speak, oh my God, I don't know how many languages, but
6. And then the piano, which was amazing. And if you look at it, it's like of her kids are on the piano, and even her.
Metaphor.
What metaphor?
Like the piano. What do you think from your former English teacher perspective, the piano itself?
I don't know. A metaphor to what? Like the piano is a metaphor to what?
Like to her mother, the meaning behind it, because that's all she wanted was the piano. She wanted to.
Oh, you're talking about Mariska's wanting the piano that belonged to her mom. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm with you. I don't know. I'd have to think about
the symbolism of the piano.
And the man who owned the piano, Engelbert Humperdinck. I mean, iconic musician, playing her mom's piano. He bought her house. He unfortunately tore it down,
he didn't tear it down. It was
him
afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the last owner,
which then by itself, that's how the story begins. Mm-hmm. Going back to
a vacant lot,
her home, and it's you see the metal, and you see the home, the concrete that's been, that was part of the home, and everything's demolished, and then when they show the film of Jayne Mansfield with her children, she's very proud of the piano.
It's like one of her prized possessions. Can you imagine though? Nowadays, people don't do that. People don't knock down famous people's houses because they passed away. It's more like a shrine, or they still keep it and they say, hey, this is who lived here. And people go take pictures. And to this day, people still go take pictures of Selena's house or stuff like that. Why?
So here's the crazy part, right? You bring this up, but the vehicle that she had the car accident in, they actually had that on display at a museum or something. My husband had looked it up after we watched the documentary, and he was actually very upset. So my husband gets upset when he feels like we take true life tragedies and kind of are only exploiting them for entertainment purposes. Exactly. And so when he heard that they had, they said that they barely put the vehicle away after, I think, COVID. Now it's being stored in a warehouse, but this whole time it had been, it had been on display at a museum or a couple of them. I'd have to go back and read that. But so I find that interesting that you're bringing up, like, normally, right, we would kind of encapsulate maybe the home or something. And instead what has been kind of treated as such was the vehicle, which actually brings me to, if it's okay if I can share with you now, so they were saying, well, they didn't say it in the documentary, but I looked it up afterwards, right, that the accident, apparently there was, they were driving behind a trailer or a truck, but the vehicle in front of that vehicle, I think was spraying some kind of chemical or something. And so mosquito repellent or something.
Yeah, which is something that they do in the South. They used to do it in the South, where, like in Louisiana, because one of our former colleagues passed away from complications because it affected their lungs. But they used to go through neighborhoods spraying this mosquito fog, and there were trucks.
So the truck slowed down, right? The truck slows down because of that mosquito
it sprays it.
Mist that they were spraying. Unfortunately, the 19-year-old driver of Jayne Mansfield's vehicle was speeding, and I guess I don't know if he didn't see it. I don't know, but the vehicle actually slid under. They went under the truck or the trailer, right? So as a result, now the underride so when you see trucks now that have that big iron bar that sits below the actual the truck. It's actually, not only is it, it's called an underride guard, but it's also known as a Mansfield bar. Yes, because part of the regulation and the changes that they made, the onset of creating that bar was a direct result of the aftermath of this car accident.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was when I was telling you at the beginning, when I was familiar with her name and who she was. Part of it was because I was familiar with
the underride,
the underride guard on the trucks.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's full circle. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's tragic. Yeah.
It is. It's wow. That's kind of weird. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Jeez. Learn something new every day, I guess. But this show, I have a new view on Olivia Benson, on a new view on Hargitay, because you look at her now and you look at how her character so kind of goes with her, on that journey. Like, her character's been through these ups and downs of knowing the truth about herself. And I find that fascinating that we've kind of, you kind of grow up with somebody and you just are so close to them. I know she was on another podcast with Call Her Daddy, and she talked about how everybody's grown up with Olivia Benson, that basketball players and everybody,
1999. She's 20 since the 20th century.
Nice.
That's when Law and Order came out.
Yeah. I knew it was before 9/11 because even on the show, they have to deal with that. And I remember back in the day, like, they talked about that, how they had to deal with that tragedy themselves because they videotape and they tape in New York and they do all this. And I've gotten to see them taping while in New York, and you're part of that, so you grow with them through this show, and then to see this and to see her, and it's just wow. Like, it makes you feel even closer to her, but it makes you feel sorry for her, but then you're happy at the end because you realize how happy they are, like watching her and her half sisters from her real dad. And Vinicia, I think you and I had that conversation, like the laughter, the final, like, kind of celebration of life, so to speak, of being able to just be you and not have to live the secret anymore, and how that atmosphere just kind of changed a little bit.
And you know, in the end, I think I said like it was like a telenovela. I felt like it. Um, and then for me, you know, that happy ending when she finally, you know, her husband, you know, gives her the piano for her birthday, and she's like, "Is it really, like, is it really ours?" And he's like, "Yes." And it's, you know, she's gotten to that moment where she has embraced her mother, and that is part of, I mean, because it's a beautiful piano and it's part of her mother's legacy, but a legacy, the part that the people, the world did not know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And Peter,
or she wanted to show them that part, but the world wasn't ready.
Yeah, I think it's a. I mean, I do. I think it's a beautiful tribute to her mother, and to the family.
Yeah.
You know, I think they. I think she did a really great job with the documentary, and even with allowing us kind of to take that journey with her, right? In realizing certain things as, you know, as she was, or in the way that they edited that, so we could experience some of that as well. I thought was really well done.
So her mom, you know, all these people that her mom dated or married or whatever was, you know, what she starred in roles with him or came out with him. The same thing goes with Mariska. Her husband, they met on Law and Order SVU. He's the attorney that constantly comes out on the show for X amount of years. And it's so funny, like your mom did the same thing, or, you know, and in the end, you know, even all the way to adopting the kids, like Mariska Hargitay only gave birth to one. She has two other adopted kids that she adopted. And can you imagine, like, now she gets to share that moment with them, and how she's going to carry that legacy of them and make sure that they probably are aware of where they came from and how they grew up and stuff like that. If there's a trail, so to speak, do you think finding the trail for her own kids is something she would want to do, or would you do if you were in that situation?
Know a little bit more about the, you know, because when you come to adoption, there's different pathways that families take in adopting. Closed adoption, so that would be something, you know, that it's different than her story.
So modern times have changed that image.
I think so. I think the one story that, because this was Mariska's story, but we got to know, you know, like one key person in this documentary that was a present, pretty much was there the entire, from the beginning towards until her mother's death, and that is her older sister. Like what role, like I think at a certain point, like I see, like, okay, she's taking care of her daughter, she's taking her everywhere, but then there's a point where the older sister Jane
had to be the parent,
right? When she told her that she was going to change her image, like, so I'm thinking, what mother is having that conversation with their preteen or 10-year-old child at the, you know, about that, you know, like that sexual image?
Because at that moment too, Jane starts taking drugs and becoming an alcoholic, and her oldest daughter had to be dumping out the alcohol. Like she talks about that, flushing the pills, doing that. She had to be the parent.
or the caretaker of her.
Mhm.
But so
Okay.
there's a point where you're thinking, does she see the older daughter as more as also a friend, a confidant, since she didn't have many people around her? And how does the daughter now, I guess, come to terms with the fact that her role was different than her siblings?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, they both grew up together when she had her at 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I did look up the older sister, and so it's just because I was curious.
I mean, what was different, or what did you find out about her?
And that's what I was like, oh, do tell.
Well, and
Spill
of
the
course,
beans.
it wasn't mentioned, but she was a playmate.
Oh,
The daughter, the
She
oldest.
became a playmate. Yes.
Oh wow!
But she is the only playmate that had a mother who was also a playmate.
wow.
A Playboy play. Yeah, I mean, I don't. However, it is. Yes.
Well, we don't know if it was Playboy back then, but okay.
Well, we could look that up, but no, but it does mention that, which that wasn't mentioned, and I can see that wasn't mentioned, but when you look her up because you want to see, like what happened to her,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like she sort of followed along the same lines as her mother, but that is what she grew up with.
Yeah.
And at that time.
Wow. Well, I really enjoyed the documentary. I mean,
I was in tears. It was emotional. You're going to relate.
Yeah.
Like, it's emotional.
I mean, it kind of takes you on this weird little journey, but I'm like, wow. I have a whole new view. And I thought it was pretty cool at the very end when they find the Golden Globe, because wow, that's like full circle. And the brother's like, put it on your mantle with yours.
Even at the like I love the relationship between the siblings, like you were saying, from her sisters from Nelson's side, right, and how they kept her secret and just honored her, and how beautiful that was, and the siblings that she grew up with, right, and in the end them telling her, I'll take the Golden Globe, and she was like, if y'all are okay with it, right, and of course they were okay with it. I kept feeling these I don't know, these ripple effects of just a very loving family, as kind of it was not a perfect family, but it's certainly, there's so much love, right? There's so much love that they share one to the other. And so at the end with the Golden Globe, I don't know if y'all saw it, but I think at the end when they're bringing the piano to her home, there's in the backdrop, you can see the Golden Globe.
They do show it. The mom's Golden Globe name tag is even kind of broken, so it kind of just leans down. But I'm like, wow, like that's something,
But they even showed the star.
Yeah. The Walk of Fame star. Yeah. I would have never thought that was her mom. Like, I would have never put two and two together, because you don't ever hear her talk about it. But now with this documentary, it's like, oh, that's who your mom is. Who would have thought,
But I think she gives her mom, I think she actually tells the world like what her mom was trying to accomplish during a time that the world wasn't ready to see women in a different light. She's able to accomplish it with this story that she tells the world.
Yeah. Her own identity and who she's become.
And this is who her mom, and so you actually get to know the mom and you see her in a different light.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it was just the time that she was, it's a time that she found herself in the box that she was put in because of how she looked.
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Well, if you have not seen it, you got to check it out. It was a great documentary, and I hope, like there's some kind of award for this, for Mariska's work on it, because I'll tell you one thing, like it was a very empowering documentary.
It's a
Mhm.
beautiful story.
Mhm.
It's a beautiful story, and I love documentaries. I really, really do. That's something I watch a lot, and I like to cover on the podcast is different ones. Um, I watch all kinds of them, like through Netflix and Hulu, and this is one that I have been dying to see when I heard about it coming out. But boy, did it take a turn that I never ever would have expected.
This is like a real telenovela. I'm serious.
Yeah.
This is like a real telenovela.
With the
You're
turns
absolutely
and
With
right.
the turns and the
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 twist
heartache and the yes, and then the happy ending, and it's everyone did the best they could at the time.
Mhm.
And I loved how her sisters, her newfound sisters, and her father, uh, Nelson, how they protected her in their own way, and how they carried the secret for 30 years. They carried it.
It's a long time.
That is a very long time, because that they had their own families
Yeah.
during those 30 years, and that they carried that
Mhm.
that weight, that secret for her. They did it for her and even her own siblings to protect.
Mhm.
Now, the older daughter, I did learn that she started to write a book, but it was never published. Like I guess sort of, a biography about her mother, because of course she had more insight to
Yeah.
mother. But yes.
I had a conversation with my mom. She hadn't seen this. She has not seen this. But I asked her, like, how hard is it growing up not knowing a certain parent? Because my mom lost her dad when she was 11.
Hmm.
And you don't really have those memories. So I wanted to really kind of understand that, like, how hard is it? But then I kind of think about, and the word that Mariska uses all the time is tragedy or tragic or loss or anger. I haven't talked to my dad in years. Like, I can't even tell you how many years. I still to this day am angry. Certain things were done, and he did things to my mom, and it makes you like, damn, like other people treated your family member like that, and they had to go through all this trauma, and to see it unfold as they start to talk about certain things and their emotions, and then at the end it's just like I think every single one of them kind of got a relief, because you're right, I think they all kind of knew they were all living a lie, or there were other family secrets to be told, and just to kind of see that at the end
Being released. Even her own mother's trauma and abuse, because people don't talk about the domestic abuse that she was that was happening to her, and even the children, because her younger brother did not want to talk about the ugly parts.
Yeah. I mean, he started the interview right away, and he was already bawling, and they hadn't even really said anything.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the younger brother,
Tony.
Tony.
Tony. Yep.
He, because
The rumor around the relationship she had with his dad, the relationship Jane Mansfield had with his father,
Oh, wow.
the kind of the
physical
nature.
abuse.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
See, I really didn't pick up on that because you can tell there's kind of maybe an issue there that even Mariska didn't want to be seen, so it's so crazy. That's just
and then that's a lot of hurt that they
Mhm.
know that their mother endured
Mm-hmm.
by herself.
True.
By herself. And again, during, at that time, it was different for women. Women suffering through, domestic violence was also treated differently.
Yeah.
And so found herself powerless, basically.
Yeah.
But no, it was very powerful, emotional for sure.
So what do you rate it? 1 to 10. 10 being the best. Where does it fit in your scale?
It is one of those. I wouldn't put a numeric. I don't know if I could put a number to it.
Okay.
Only because of the like this is someone's real story.
Okay.
And I think that would be giving some this is a rating for this person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think I would I wouldn't give it a numeric rating. What I would say is you need to watch it because it's part of the human element.
I was just about to say that, the human experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this idea of, I'm sure people could look at it and just think like, wow, how selfish of so-and-so, or how, this and that. But when I look at it, the thing that stuck out to me was this. To me, the documentary is about acceptance. It's about love. It's about grace. It's about grief. It's about family, right? It's about the acceptance of family and the fallibility of individuals and the ability to extend grace and eventually come to a place where you can accept it, right? Kind of as messy as it gets. So I really appreciated that about the documentary for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy that it was a happy ending for Mariska. I know there's an undercurrent of sadness that will always be there. You can't bring your mom back, right? And she lost her when she was 3. So there's always going to be those elements, right, that are pretty heavy. But in the end, I do feel like she came out of this more whole and more at peace, and can kind of look back and to some extent, I don't know, I just feel like it's a love letter, right? It's a love letter to her mom and her family and even herself.
And she can really embrace her mother and celebrate the legacy that she has left.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and she took us on that journey.
Yeah.
And so it's just, we're going to find ourselves in the story along the way, because one way or another, we know someone who has gone through something like, some
element
of that story,
some part of it. Yeah.
Or
one of us has taken some piece of that story. I think
you will,
whether
it will touch you.
Yeah, whether it's losing a parent at a young age, or a tragic accident to a parent, or being adopted, or finding out you have other siblings, or your parents passed in some way or shape or form. And yeah, you're right. We're all gonna find a piece of us in that. And that's what's pretty.
But it's emotional.
It is.
You don't think, but then it just kind of like, it's hard not to really like it's hard to separate yourself because the way the story is told, you become part of that story. You're witnessing it with Mariska.
I've been having it on the whole time while we're talking. I don't know if you guys are, but I'm looking at pictures like they're showing of her on Law and Order SVU, and then they show pictures of her real dad and some of the poses, and it's like, wow, like you're at a reflection of yourself as an entertainer, or ways your haircuts and different things changes.
That reminds me, at the end, I loved how at the beginning they show her kind of walking in the rubble, like you were saying, right, of the home, and then it shows like that same place in a video with her mom walking through what was the house, right, and what was the garden, or what was the little walkway, or yeah. So you see that mirror image there, but it's a journey or a little pathway of then and now. But in the end, when she comes to like this full embrace of the totality of who her mother was, then you have I really love the way that it ended with those pictures of Mariska in a certain pose side by side with her mom in that same pose, right? And so when you mention that right now about the pictures that you're seeing, I got a flashback to the end of the documentary, and I really loved how they did that.
And now her relationship with her dad 30 years ago, like them looking right at each other too, like, and then I'm like, oh my God, like I'm looking at these pictures right now, I'm like, dang, you look just like your dad, like, who lives in Las Vegas, like he's famous, you know. But yeah, you're right. One hell of a documentary. I hope you guys see it. Like I said, spoiler alert, I know we probably summed it up for you, but it is one you got to see. And I hope you guys
like an like it just like, wow.
Yeah, I know. I got through watching it, I was like, wow, like did we just really see this? Like, wow, okay. But thank you guys for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. It's been
great conversation. Yeah,
it's been fun. We gotta do this again.
Documentary.
Yeah, we gotta watch another documentary. We'll find one soon.
Tacos, though? Can we have tacos?
Tacos, yeah, sure. Barbecue.
No, tacos. Like, let's go with tacos first. The next one should be tacos. Tacos with JJ.
Tacos with JJ. Tacos and tequila, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do this again. This was absolutely amazing, and we'll probably all be in the same room at some time. But I want to thank you guys for coming on, and for those of you listening, please feel free to check us out wherever you subscribe to your podcast. YouTube. This video is on YouTube. I hope you guys liked it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and don't forget to check us out. You can also check it out on www.kingscourtwithjj.com for all the latest podcast and YouTube stuff. So, ladies, thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you,
and like I said, we got to do this again. All right. Have a good day, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody.